Hi, and welcome to today's video, which is a collection of questions asked by one of our viewers here. So it's kind of a Q&A, except instead of collecting questions by several people, this is a case of most of them being from one. But the most important part is, of course, the questions and the answers that I'm going to do my best this time to give my thoughts on. And as always, if you have any questions about anything that I'm talking about here, feel free to let me know in the comments, and I would be more than happy to continue the discussion or monologue or whatever you want to call it. So let's see what we can do here in 2020. I have plenty of plans, and they will be more and more clear for each video that is coming the next weeks and months, as well as some interesting releases from previous years and the most recent one. And I'm saying that in a connection to the first question that concerns perfectionism and high standards, which is something that I have more or less frequent problems with, and that was one of the reasons why I started working with other artists or musicians in the beginning of hypothermia, and have continued to doing so. Because usually when I'm working by myself, I keep finding new ways to improve a song or the production, and I keep restarting or deleting what I'm doing until I'm not really content anymore. And I'm not a very good drummer, so for me to not be stuck in funeral doom territory forever with hypothermia, I simply decided to find other musicians that were not necessarily the best drummers that I could find in the world, but people that showed some kind of enthusiasm or devotion towards doing creative things in different ways, and often maybe in the not most normal practices or standards, but just doing what you can do with as little equipment as possible. Because going to a nice studio is fine and all, but there is a certain kind of magic and atmosphere that you can make with a less high-end equipment that has its charm and moods that you are less likely to find in a higher-end studio environment. So my way of coping with perfectionism and letting go and being more accepting of my own flaws and others has been to implement the live recording in what is hypothermia, because it of course is a very honest way to manifest something. It is what it is, and that also affects, of course, the standards on the material, that it has to feel a certain way before we even attempt to record it. And in all of the recordings that we have been doing over the years with different members, it has been pretty simple and straightforward, that we set up the equipment and the microphones that we have access to until we have a sound that we are satisfied with. Then we rehearse the song until we are satisfied with that. And then we record it. And many times, because we have practiced it over and over, we feel that we have an optimized way of making a genuine performance of it. So usually the first or second attempt of a recording is the one that we're using. And that doesn't mean that we haven't practiced it before, so I can't give the amount of times that we sometimes need to get it right. And sometimes we're lucky and can do it in one time, sometimes a dozen. And that's one of the things that I feel that hypothermia contributes to the world of music and art, that beyond its aesthetics and deep connection to nature, we also have a very genuine process, which can be not only heard but felt through the different recordings and the evolution of the band over the years. So, aside from that, what is my relationship towards my audience and some of my fanatics? Well, when I'm at home, I prefer to isolate myself and distance myself, because that is how I'm able to compose and manifest the things that I am. If I lived in a city and worked full-time somewhere, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing. But when I'm out in the world and have art exhibitions or concerts, and we're usually doing our own merch, or if we're not at the merch table at some events, you can usually find us there for at least a while before or after the concerts, and generally we try to be available for at least a while in the venue or near it, for anyone that wants to ask us something about what we're doing, or maybe share a beer or a glass of wine, or, as I often encourage people over the years, if they have a drink that they made themselves or that is special or local to their area or their country. I'm always intrigued and happy to experience what they are able to share and offer me. And that has been some pretty interesting moments over the years doing that. Some with not the best results perhaps, but generally it has been mutually interesting and comfortable experience, I hope. I can remember some instances that I have apologized for in person to the people involved, because I have a tendency to let go of any borders. I know my limits, but for me it's far more enjoyable to exceed them than keep myself within them. And yeah, that doesn't always have the best results, but that's not really the point. But yeah, usually if someone wants me to sign something or request something, I'm usually open for it. I don't really have any reason not to be. I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing here without you. I would be doing it in some way, regardless. But it would probably be a bit different. So of course, I'm connecting that to one of the other questions. If I would still be doing what I'm doing if there was no one to witness it. And judging from being close to 2 decades of doing this, and many times without an audience, the answer is yes, definitely. Because to me it's not a choice, it's obligation, it's an honor, it's an obsession, and it's a way of life. And just as different forests and landscapes are speaking through me, I am breathing through them, and without it I wouldn't be able to be being who I am or being at all. So creating music and paintings or videos for that matter is something that all connects to the creative process. And once again, it's because it is a situation right now that I'm doing things for you, that I'm getting a response, and then that itself generates something new that I'm making, be it a video or a song or a painting or a combination of them. I find it to be a pretty rewarding and interesting creative experience that is different from what I've done in the past. and I'm doing what I can to learn and improve and get better at it, and hopefully over time that shows, because I'm open and honest about my mistakes, and I value any constructive criticism. Has there been something too significant to share? And to that I would say, well, personally, of course, I have things that have affected me in life, like friends or closer acquaintances or relatives that have died, or in some cases breakups, or simply friendships not really working out over the years, is something that I'm not completely against sharing my thoughts or feelings about it, but in most cases that feels like something that one of the reasons why I'm not talking about it is because, not that it's something that I'm not able emotionally to do, but that it's a person or a situation that shouldn't be promoted or rewarded by getting attention. So it's more about that, why I in many cases rather choose to not address some things or talk about some people or some subjects, because in many of the cases what has happened, and there is no winner or loser in the situation. But if I give them some of the attention that those people in some cases want, then they are winning and I'm losing. So I rather not talk about those instances. But when it comes to things that I've experienced through different forms of elevation or intoxication, meditations and wanderings, none of them excluding one or the other, there are plenty of experiences that have not only changed me in the ways that I interpret things in the world, or how I see things in life, but also how I, in some cases, move myself when I'm making a painting, or what kind of rhythms or movements that I'm thinking of when I'm out in nature and composing music. And those are never too significant or private to me. Of course they are very significant, but not to the extent that I wouldn't want to or be able to share them with you or the rest of the world. And all of the albums by Consider Suicide are of course different places and experiences connected to those places that are then manifested into conceptual albums and recordings, and that is one of my main traditions in Hypothermia Vemodsorkestern too. That there is a place or an experience that has stayed with me in ways that it connects itself to different compositions. And one of my next upcoming features about the series of Kaffe och Blod, Coffee and Blood, will be starting that journey a bit, because that is a highly conceptual series connected to psychedelia and art and the night, which all together very important to me in Hypothermia, especially the last or most recent decade. So closing this video is the final question of this, which is if, the things that I do, the recordings especially, if they are a part to immortalize or leave a mark on the world. And that is something that I've been thinking a lot about in the past, and of course it's nothing that really ever leaves me. But it can be connected to different aspects that I've mentioned briefly in different contexts here, which is why the journey of Hypothermia has its dynamic and very open, honest way of showing the different steps of recording and production and composition, how that is something that I'm improving over the years. And instead of throwing away or not releasing or re-releasing some of the recordings that are from the eras that have passed in the ways that they are relevant to what we're doing, they will be in some shape or form always there for those that want to experience the journey. And that's also why I usually try to answer interviews as in-depth as possible, and making many of these videos as honest and in-depth as possible too, because I want anyone that is interested in my passions and my work to have a as detailed picture of it as possible, to make their own judgment if it's something that they are interested in. And if they want to support me, then I'm always deeply appreciative of it, and I'm trying to show it in different ways. And that connects back to the different things that I'm doing, because that's why the music and the symbols and the photographies of nature in different places have such an importance to me too, because some of those things are not there anymore, or maybe in 10, 20 or 50 years from now, some of these places may not exist. Cities and villages in the countryside and forests in different areas disappear in different ways for different reasons. So yes, in many contexts and aspects, what I'm doing is a way to show something from a place in time for future generations, and to teach what I have learned over the years through many journeys and wanderings and meditations within and beyond myself, that I'm aware not everyone else has the time to do. So for all of you, I am the vessel to manifest these things. And of course, because I'm living the way that I am, I'm able to reach different concepts or conclusions that others are not. And hopefully I will live long enough to be able to not only publish more manifestations in the shape of music albums, but I think, and have been thinking for more than a decade about what things that could make a good book. But it's sometimes hard to find a conclusion about the subject, or especially the context of the narration, because I wouldn't be good at making a stream of consciousness kind of thing. I don't mind doing it here, but I'm not sure if it would work as well in just text format. But well, we'll see in the future what it may lead to. But my own concept or idea is closer connected to making something more philosophical, or kind of open-minded self-exploration kind of, if not guide, at least a chart of different steps one can take to reach different degrees of consciousness. And one of the things that I've been telling friends and fans alike in different meetings and tours and after parties and different forms of friendships is that I may be living in a way that is timeless, and many of the things I do are connected to the past, and many of my plans are not just 1 or 2 steps ahead, but many of the things that I am working on and planning are often 1, 5 or 10 years ahead of all of us. And the way that I plan my recordings and the releases of the different manifestations through hypothermia and other projects is that I don't live in the past or the present or in some shape of the future. What I do is for eternity. My goal is not to be popular or loved or appreciated, famous or infamous. In the moment, but my goal in everything that I do is to enable those who are willing to listen to learn something that to many is forgotten. To share the voice of nature, the heartbeat of the world, the screams of the earth. The songs of the wind. The beauty and importance of emptiness and melancholy, and what awareness and acceptance of these things can reward you with. That is not only a lesson to be learned in the moment, but for eternity. And for that, I am here. And that's something that I came to a conclusion about, or revelation, or whatever you may call it, in one of my first near-death experiences. And I've had several. And each has marked an important transition in my life. Hopefully I'm done with them. But as always, I look forward to all the glorious things that I have to share with those of you who are there to listen or explore or find out about what it is that I'm doing or what I have to offer. And with that, I'm ending this video and thanking you from the depth of my heart for listening and watching. Take care.